Hey guys, this is your Cloud Strategist channel. I'm Sridhar. In this video, we're going to look at the different entities within the Microsoft ecosystem, and we're going to look at the different licensing options for partners for looking to deliver services for their customer. So let's get started. I'm going to use my whiteboard to give you a rough idea on what is all involved. We've got Microsoft on the top, so consider that that's the prime vendor. In this case is Microsoft, and we've got customers who could be any consumer of any Microsoft service or the services hosted by any of the partner which is based on a Microsoft cloud technology. So we've got examples of multiple customers. So when customers have to buy any Microsoft's service, that could be Office 365 or Azure, they have multiple options. If it's a small and medium organization, they could choose to use their credit card to directly go into the website and consume any of these services, any of the cloud services on a pay-as-you-go basis. But at the same time, there could be large enterprises who could choose to actually go for what Microsoft calls as an enterprise agreement. So that's based on a pre-commit and level of consumption of cloud that somebody could sign up with directly with Microsoft. So that's the first portion where customer directly consumes licensing from Microsoft. But let's assume there is another scenario where a customer is not intending to go directly to Microsoft but have to reach out to another partner for various reasons. Now, one could be because of other services that they might need from the partner. Could be a data center provider who hosts some of the customers' servers in their data center, or could be an ISV who's building a custom application for the customer. So in this case, the customer's preference is to see if they could get the solution directly from the partner and also have their respective licensing coming from the same partner. It solves the hassle of multiple vendors involved in licensing. So let's assume there is a partner in this case who could be, as an example, could be a hosting provider who has its own data center where he's got his customer service which are coming in. So in this case, what the hosting provider has an option for him to deliver services or licensing for his customer. So let's look at that now. So we've got the hosting provider here. In this case, the hosting provider, like I said, has multiple licensing options. So I'm going to outline some of those options. In traditional world before the cloud came into picture, for hosting any of those Microsoft technology, let's say Windows Server or somebody running an Exchange server but offering services to their customer by running a hosted Exchange, would be using what Microsoft used to refer and is still referred as service provider licensing agreement. Now that's meant for a scenario where the hosting provider actually owns or kind of hires the license from Microsoft to render services to the customer. Now in this case, the licensing is not attached to a particular customer, but is all the responsibility of the hoster to report back into Microsoft on those usage of licenses which were used for hosting purpose. Now imagine this customer C2 up here would like to get additional services from this partner, this hosting partner. Now this partner could have chosen to offer services which could be a hybrid service comprising of both his on-prem or hosted DC plus something from Microsoft, that is, let's say, Azure. Now in this case, the licensing model for this is the Azure licensing through CSP. So that's nothing but the Cloud Solutions Provider Program. Now CSP is the licensing model meant for partners for them to use and deliver services to their customer, like I mentioned before. So in this case, the licensing option is CSP for this partner to render this service back to their customer. Now it's the channel model through which the partner is using the CSP licensing model, but the licenses are actually attached virtually to the customer C2 in this case. I'll elaborate on this more as we go through this, but keep in mind the options for rendering any of these services like Azure, or let's say Office 365, Dynamics 365, the options are pretty much the CSP model which could be used. Of course, Dynamics has got other licensing options as well. So let's look at into more detail on how this CSP is being structured for different partners. Right now, so far we've got the idea that CSP is the licensing option for somebody who needs to render services to their customer. Now imagine if one of these customers was going to directly consume licensing from Microsoft. Like I said, they would use credit card, what Microsoft referred to as web direct model by which they could buy, and like I also mentioned, there could be an enterprise agreement that somebody could choose based on their usage. Predominantly the CSP model is suited for small medium, but we have seen it still works for large enterprises as well, depending on their usage. Now, something to keep in mind, CSP is a pay-as-you-go licensing model. You would use it and then pay by month on a month-on-month basis, and it's reported through the hosting provider. And we go into details on that model on CSP for partners, which is of interest for us at this stage. Okay. Now let me quickly give you an idea on what it means to have CSP as a licensing model for a given partner. So again, we've got Microsoft on the top. Let's forget the customer for a moment, and let's assume how it looks like in the CSP world for a given partner. Now, there are two options when it comes to CSP. What Microsoft refers to this as CSP direct, or 1T, or CSP indirect. Now, the difference here is the number of entities involved in delivering this licensing model back to the customer. So we've got Microsoft, we've got partners. Like I mentioned, again, this partner could be ISV, could be MSP, just keep that in mind, or could be any hosting service provider who's actually going to render the service back to the customer. Now, the partner has got option to buy this directly from Microsoft through the CSP relationship, in which case they become the CSP direct partner. Right now, the partner might not be big enough, or could choose to do this not directly through Microsoft but through another distributor. In this case, we now bring in another entity called the distributor in between. Now this is also a CSP, but just that they are an indirect CSP in this model. Now, indirect CSP also refers to the fact that these partners are not connected to Microsoft directly, but they are connected through the disti in terms of the relationship. Now, I'll talk about more on the agreements that are required in this specific scenario, so that you are aware of what are the different entities you might have to sign up, different agreements that you need to sign off. So probably let's start looking at that on the next video, and don't forget to subscribe.